One Thursday night I saw a group of youth loitering across the road in front of McDonald's, and I said to my friends, lay your hands on me, I'm going to go across the road and tell them about Jesus. So my friends laid hands on me, and then I could have walked straight across the street, but I went the long way. I went down the road to the pedestrian crossing, and then I would have to walk all the way back up to the guys again because I was feeling a little bit nervous and I wanted more time to pray. And while I was walking across the pedestrian crossing, I just sort of said to myself, it's no longer me who lives, but it's Christ who lives in me. And then I walked up and I approached the guys and a few girls as well, and I started to talk to them about Jesus. But they really weren't interested. They hardly gave me any eye contact. The whole time I was talking to them, their eyes were just watching the cars driving past, maybe even looking at the girls walking along the footpath. So I said to God, you've got to give me a word of knowledge to get their attention. And straight away, the word throats came to me. And so I said to them, someone here has got a problem with their throat. Who is it? And one of the young guys said, that's me. I've got a sore throat. How did you know? I said, God told me. And then another guy said, I've got a problem with my throat as well. And he said, the doctor wants me to have an operation on my throat this week. And he said, how did you know? I said, God told me. So I laid my hands on them both and I prayed for them for healing. And after I did that, I had everyone's attention. They wanted to know, how does it feel when God talks to you? So I told them about the night I was filled with the Holy Spirit, and I told them that I began to speak in a new language that night, which I'd never learnt, a language that I could pray and talk to God in. And I said that when I talk to God, He talks back to me. It's a two-way thing. So when I told them about praying in a new language, which the Holy Spirit gave me, they said, can we hear a bit of it? And I said to them, I'm not going to just stand here and speak in tongues so you can judge it. I said, but I tell you what, if one of you will let me pray for you, I'll pray for you in tongues. And so they all started saying, you let him pray for you. And he'd say, no, you let him pray for you. And they kept asking me, but I kept holding off. Now I had the upper hand in the conversation, and I really strung them out a bit. And then throughout the whole conversation, there was one person in particular who I really felt God's love reaching out to especially. And then all of a sudden I said, someone here has got a problem with their back. And that very person who I'd been sort of feeling drawn to all night, she said, it's me, I've got a problem with my back. And so I laid hands on her and I prayed in tongues as well, and everyone heard it. They were silent. And when I was laying hands on her, I suddenly said, I think one of your legs is shorter than the other one. And she said, oh, how did you know that? And then all her friends said to her, is one of your legs shorter than the other? And she explained to everyone that she'd had a car accident and she'd damaged a spine in her back and her hip was pulled out of position. And she said that her doctor even wanted to make a platform shoe for her to even out the height of her legs. So I laid hands on her and prayed for her. And she said, I've got goosebumps all over me. And she said, my psychologist has been telling me that I should see a priest. And I tell you, by that stage they were no longer interested in who was walking down the street or which car was driving down. They were intrigued. And by the time I finished talking to them, there was a real bond between us. And when I said goodbye and I walked back down the street to the pedestrian crossing, I turned around and they were all still looking at me and they waved. But before I left them, I invited them to come to a youth rally which was being held a couple of nights later. So I went to that youth rally hoping that some of them would turn up, And one of the guys, I saw him in the crowd in the foyer lining up to get inside. So I made a beeline up to him, and I was so glad to see him. And I said, "How's your throat?" He said to me, "I went to the doctor this week, and the doctor said, well, it looks like you don't need to have the operation anymore."